Well, Mr. President, yesterday, for the second time in less than a week, Republicans were given the opportunity to fund TSA and to also fund FEMA, to stand up for our Coast Guard and make sure core DHS operations are funded while negotiations on ICE and Border Patrol continue. And for the second time in less than a week, Republicans said no.
This exchange on the Senate floor centers on a growing dispute over funding key federal agencies, including the Transportation Security Administration and FEMA. One side argues that these programs should be funded immediately without conditions, while the other says broader negotiations over immigration enforcement must be part of the deal. As the debate unfolds, the disagreement becomes less about procedure and more about political accountability. Watch closely, because this moment reveals how funding negotiations in Congress can quickly turn into a public clash over priorities.
Well, we're giving them another opportunity later this morning, another opportunity to end their blockade at TSA. We're giving Republicans the opportunity to end their blockade of FEMA. We're giving Republicans the opportunity to end their blockade at CISA and to end their blockade at Coast Guard and much else. The bottom line is very simple. It's easy. You don't have to follow politics very closely to see it. Democrats are ready to fund TSA. Republicans are blocking it. Democrats are ready to fund CISA. Republicans are blocking it. Democrats are ready to fund FEMA and Coast Guard and most of DHS operations. We will give Republicans a chance to say yes. We all know that we do not have agreement on how to deal with ICE. We know, very simply, that Democrats just want ICE to behave like any police department in America and use warrants and not wear masks. But we don't have to tie that disagreement up and use people at the airports and American citizens as hostages and say, we're not going to fund FEMA, we're not going to fund ICE, we're not going to fund TSA unless you give in to our unreasonable and unpopular demands on reforming ICE. So we're going to offer these bills one at a time and see where our Republican colleagues go. We know the American people are on our side. We know that the only thing Republicans need to do is stay out of the way, and these programs will be funded today, and problems at the airports will go away.
Democrat leader yield?
I will.
So I assume the Democrat leader is aware of the fact that we have tried repeatedly to fund everything temporarily to allow the negotiations over the ICE budget to continue.
I am well aware, but that hasn't worked. What can work
and the reason
is
that
stop.
hasn't,
I am not yielding back.
Is because the Democrats have blocked it.
Yeah, the bottom line is Democrats are ready today. America, watch. We will have members on the floor saying, let's fund TSA with no other preconditions. What will Republicans do? They're going to see Republicans get up and block it. It's that simple. Now, my friend, sometimes, much of the time, my friend, the Republican leader, says, well, you'll only do it if you go along with what we want on ICE and what we want on Border Patrol. Highly unpopular and wrong. So who's standing in the way? America, look at it. We're not putting any preconditions on funding TSA. The Republicans are. And why?
Mr. President,
because
the Democrat leader would yield for a question.
No, in a minute.
This is the point where the debate becomes more than a technical disagreement over funding mechanisms. Each side is now framing the issue as a matter of responsibility and public impact. One argument is that essential agencies like TSA should be funded immediately, regardless of other disputes. The other side insists that broader negotiations, especially around immigration enforcement, must be addressed at the same time. Situations like this often illustrate how congressional gridlock develops, where both sides claim they're protecting the public interest while accusing the other of creating the stalemate. So the question becomes, is this a negotiation tactic or a genuine policy impasse?
Why? Because Republicans are in obeisance to Donald Trump's insistence on having these marauding forces of ICE go through our cities. We saw what they did in Minneapolis. We saw what they did in Los Angeles. We saw what they did in other places. Americans don't like it. Trump's numbers have suffered. And so it's simple. Don't attach preconditions. Fund TSA. Fund CISA. You'll have that opportunity in a few hours. And if you get up and block it and say, we'll only do it unless, Americans will know who's to blame. I yield.
Well, I would just say again to the Democrat leader that the Democrats have had multiple opportunities, and we'll have another one today, to provide funding for all of the agencies that he just mentioned to allow us to consider, under the continuing resolution, to allow us to consider how we're going to resolve the DHS issues that the Democrat leader has raised, which are being negotiated, I might add, at the moment between Democrats and Republicans in the White House. So there will be an attempt. The Democrats will have an opportunity to block, as they have now repeatedly. A continuing resolution would fund all the agencies to which you just alluded, and allow us more time to negotiate. So those agencies could be funded if the Democrats
would my colleague yield for a question? Will he support, without any Republican blocking it, a straight motion to just deal with TSA and get it funded while we're trying to work out these negotiations? Will he support that? No ands, ifs, or buts, no preconditions, no keep negotiating on ICE, but just get it done. Will he support that?
I would support a resolution which will be offered to fund not just TSA, but Coast Guard, cybersecurity, CISA, FEMA, other agencies and departments of our government that are essential not only to national security and homeland security, but to making sure that people can move through our airports in this country, that the FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, has the ability to respond to disasters. Those are things, Mr. President, to my friend, the Democrat leader, could all be funded today, and then we can continue this discussion that he wants to have, which, again, there has been offers made repeatedly, the most recent of which was about 13 days ago, I think, from the White House, and the Democrats have yet to respond.
Reclaiming my time, I rest my case. What the leader is saying is he will only fund TSA if we will continue to fund for a short time, for a long time, ICE and Border Patrol, which he knows is gridlocked, which he knows we don't agree with. And so it's clear. He's made it clear. Just fund TSA. That's it. He has a lot of rigmarole attached, funding TSA, but do this, but do that, but do this. Can't win the argument, leader. It's simple. We're being clear. We're being concise. So the question is very simple. I say to my Republican friends, support the legislation that's coming on the floor today, and if you do, TSA is funded like that. Every Democrat is for it. My guess is half to three-quarters of the Republicans are wishing they'd be for it, but their leadership is insisting on attaching preconditions on ICE negotiations and Border Patrol negotiations. So all I say to my Republican colleagues, stop the speeches that you care about TSA. Don't talk the talk. Walk the walk. Let the legislation that we are proposing go forward without blocking it, and TSA will be back to work. Our lines at the airports will go. And then we will have a legislation on CISA. Don't talk to us about the need for safety and then block legislation that allows CISA to go through. That's hypocrisy. Just let it go through. And I know that our Republican leadership knows that we have the high ground here, knows that the people are on our side. And why do Republicans do this? Why won't they budge to give an inch on ICE, which is highly unpopular, and even the president has said hasn't done things right? That's the mystery, but it's probably because some in the right wing insist. And we know that the hard right runs this party, and that's why they're doing so poorly with the American people right now. That's why we Democrats are on the ascent, because we're with the American people. The American people say fund ICE, fund TSA now. And you can debate ICE. There's been a debate on ICE. We believe we're right. We believe something as simple as warrants should be used by ICE when you bust into someone's house. We believe simply that ICE agents should not be masked when every police department and sheriff's department is identified. And the American people are with us. But we don't even have to debate that today, because what Republicans are doing is insisting that we don't change a thing about ICE before we move forward on TSA. That's wrong. That's using the American people as hostages, and we're not going to do it. And I remind my Republican colleagues, we're going to be back here again and again, winning this debate and eventually winning the American people, which will say to you folks on the Republican side, you better stop this blockade of TSA, of CISA, of FEMA, and of the Coast Guard. You better stop using them as hostages till you get your way on ICE and on CPB, where you're out of touch with the American people. I yield the floor.
Debates like this show how federal funding battles often become larger political showdowns about policy priorities and negotiation tactics. While the immediate issue here centers on agencies like TSA, FEMA, and other DHS operations, the underlying conflict revolves around immigration policy and how those negotiations should proceed. Moments like this highlight the complexity of governing, where funding decisions, political messaging, and public accountability intersect on the Senate floor. What do you think? Should agency funding be handled separately from broader policy disputes, or is it reasonable for lawmakers to negotiate them together? Let us know your perspective in the comments. And if you enjoy clear, fact-based breakdowns of major political moments like this, make sure to like the video, share it with others, and subscribe for more in-depth analysis of the stories shaping the political landscape.